We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. The voice is like a little bit back, but I'm juiced up that we're going to get to continue previewing these week one games. The response that we've had from the Kansas State, Iowa State preview, and then also the Ohio State, Texas preview, the viewership, the comments, it makes me excited for this upcoming year because it is already breaking a ton of records that we set last year.
Yes, over 17,000 subs on YouTube.
Yes.
If you haven't subbed already, like 50% of you haven't subbed, but you Rudy Poos keep coming in and watching. So do us a favor if you haven't done so, by the way, and subscribe. Just do us a favor, subscribe. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with us because we need more money for kids and tuition and all that great stuff. So just do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. But here's the real truth. Today brings great news on this great Monday for a lot of people. If you sprinkled on FanDuel, if you responsibly placed a bet on Julian Sand to win a Heisman, you're breathing a little bit easy today, Joe. If you placed a bet for Joey Aguilar to win a Heisman at Tennessee, you're breathing a little bit smoother now. Now, I don't know if you're betting responsibly if you're doing that over at FanDuel. Who is Notre Dame starting quarterback going to be? That is a massive question. That is a massive question. And then maybe they just should have kept Angeli because he got named the starting quarterback at Syracuse. So we got a lot of quarterback stuff that we need to talk into.
So, okay, I'm going to hit on the Notre Dame thing. I have been told who it seems like is going to be the starter. I am not certain of it for Notre Dame specifically. They're probably going to announce it sometime this week. They just had one of their last scrimmages. It's time to prepare for Miami and to enter game week. All that prep's coming up soon. It sounds like that announcement is coming soon. The Angeli stuff, though, yeah, it's great that he won the job at Syracuse, but he left for a reason. I think both options, Kenny Minchey and CJ Carr, are tremendous options. Both of these guys, the fact that they're both ready enough to compete for the starting job at the point that they're at in their careers and in their development is very telling. But the Julian Sand part about this, that's the real storyline with this. Nobody's shocked, Blake. Nobody is shocked whatsoever with the fact that Julian Sand won this job. We talked about this. You keep Keenholz around by telling him that he's still in the competition because you don't want to have to risk putting a true freshman out there in Tavian Sinclair, who's super raw, super green, and probably won't be ready for some time. Sand is going to be a great player, and he is entering one of the best situations that a true freshman could possibly step into. Having Jeremiah Smith, redshirt freshman, having Brandon Innes, having Cardell Tate, and of course having Jeremiah Smith to throw to, not to mention Max Clare, who's incredibly gifted as well. So Sand's going to be fantastic. I'm curious to see what he does in week one.
Do you feel that the situation revolving around Notre Dame not naming a starter is getting a little bit worrisome?
No. I don't think so. I think that this is healthy when you have two guys. And I would argue that if it was just straight up CJ Carr announced and he ended up winning it early on into training camp, I think that would actually have been an indicator that there's not as close of a competition and there's not as much talent in the room as they would like to have. I think that this is a benefit of the fact that you recruited a guy in Kenny Minchey who was a backup option when you didn't land Dante Moore a couple of years ago, and he's developed to this point where he's challenging one of the higher recruited quarterback recruits that you've brought in some time. I think it tells more about Minchey than it is a negative on either of these guys. I really don't think that it's an issue.
I do think it's a little bit of an issue. Let me tell you why. If you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. And if you had clear separation, then somebody would have been named. The fact that you don't have clear separation and then you have media that's at practice when not only one Saturday, but then the Saturday before, the narrative coming out, I think, I'm just going off. I'm not there. I'm going based off of Twitter. I will give it to you if I need to. When you have multiple quarterbacks with multiple interceptions and neither one of them have separated themselves, or you have a situation where one guy then underperforms, the guy that you thought was going to start, and then the other guy outperforms him in one day. I do think that you're in a situation. Doesn't mean that you're in a bad situation. Just means that nobody is separated. Joe, here's what I tell you. When you're on the offensive line, okay, and you're going into a hostile environment, and I know you got ripped from Miami saying it's not a hostile environment. Let me just throw this your way. Snap count becomes a big thing. Going through repetitions with the same guy over and over and over again does become a big thing. Are they splitting those reps? How are those reps being maintained? I will tell you, I saw Denbrock do this once. It was like 6-4 the first competition that I saw him do it in. I think that's why LSU struggled early out of the gate from a run game perspective. That's why they had a lot of false starts in the beginning of this. It's not that it's a bad situation, but when you're talking about cohesiveness, what guy's going to separate themselves is going to be the ultimate question.
Okay, well, one, they're probably going to announce this in the next day or so. And we just had a quarterback battle that everybody knew who was going to win it, not get announced until today. So we're talking about the Ohio State one. So the timeline of it, I agree. I understand what you're saying, but like, I don't think it's telling to anything. Here's the real truth of the matter. I'm not going to say who won, who I've been hearing is in the lead of this job, but the situation when you have a guy who is highly recruited as CJ Carr that is given as many promises as that he is coming in, nobody expects anything from Kenny Minchie. He is supposed to just be a career backup that is just there, that never steps on the field.
Do you think it's what's taking him so long?
Yes, I think that's what I'm getting at. I think what's taking him so long is that you have to give CJ Carr in this situation as many chances to lose the job as possible. And you have to be for certain that Kenny Minchie can beat him out. I think that they wanted this to get to be a long discussion and a long breakdown before they made a final decision. Because if you announce Kenny Minchie early, CJ Carr could get checked out. And then also ultimately, CJ Carr is the type of kid who's as highly recruited as he was.
He'll leave
easily. Yeah, he'll have in the transfer portal and he's going to get a big offer. They're not separated by much eligibility. It would not be best for him to stay. So I think that it's more so has to do with the fact that CJ Carr is such a big name that we're in this situation. We don't have a battle between two no names. We have one of the highest recruited Notre Dame quarterbacks in the last 10 years. And we've got a guy that wasn't supposed to even be anywhere close to him. That is what has created the circumstance. And that's why I think it's been drawn out. I don't like the notion that some people are commenting that when you have two, you have none. I disagree with that. I don't think that there's truth in that in every situation, just because somebody wasn't announced at the beginning of training camp.
I don't think it's that. I
know you didn't say that.
I don't think it's that. I do think it's a little bit of a situation on the outside looking in. I mean, Joe, you got media there, and then they say that there was 5 interceptions thrown, and then somebody's not announced. So then now you got to dictate to me then what's going on.
Okay, well, they're going against one of the best secondaries in the country.
I don't give a Rudy Poo. I don't give a Rudy Poo.
These guys have never played game action. They're going.
Okay, then you're in the NFL. Okay, well then the report coming out about the receiving corps is a lie. Then
what? That the receiving corps is improved?
Yeah, because you can't
take much for it to be better. It was awful last year.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's be real. Like, what?
Okay, well, you yelled at me all last year saying that you weren't good at receiver, and then now you're just admitting it. All right. In reference to saying, I do agree. I do think that they were, look, this is the third time he's done this. Gotten a week out before or 2 weeks out before a game and then named a starter. This is literally the second time Ryan Day has done this. Just not surprising to me whatsoever. So it is what it is. Steve Angeli named the starter at Syracuse. I got to be real with you, Joe. This kid might go in there and sling it now. I gotta be real with you. So I went back and watched that Penn State game, by the way. Dude, my man was out there slinging that pill now.
Well, I mean, hey, if you're hyping him up, though, I think that you got to backtrack a little bit on the Notre Dame quarterback commentary, because if he got booted,
what if they missed?
I don't think that they did, man. I really don't. I think that
as much as Syracuse is going to go out there and throw that rock around, dude, I don't know.
I don't think that there's a shot that they miss.
Who has the better years, Steve Angeli or whoever's named the starting quarterback?
Whoever's the Notre Dame starter.
I disagree because they're going to throw the ball 250 times more at Syracuse than they are at Notre Dame.
There's a lot less receiving options for him at Syracuse, though, than the ones that are available.
Nobody knew who Trevor Pena was until last year.
That's fair. That's fair. They're going to be aggressive, but I'm not going to go into that. Like, I think that Angeli is going to outperform. He's going to have a good year. I don't think he touches what Kyle McCord did last year, though.
We'll see. We'll see. Joe's not giving up on his Notre Dame Fighting Irish. To the national championship, they go again.
I didn't say that.
Very quickly, before we get moving on here, speaking of Notre Dame, I needed to throw this in there. Are you surprised at all that Aguilar won this at Tennessee? Because I am not.
No, I think that their options were pretty weak. I don't think that they had anything to turn to. Merklinger was the guy that was brought up immediately when there was nobody in the room. I actually real talk with Angeli. I think that this is the circumstance of they made the mistake of not going out and getting Steve Angeli. I think that they had no one to turn to, and they should have tried to bring in both Aguilar and Angeli. I think that them not trying to stick and grab as many guys as possible, if this was how weak of a competition it was, that a dude came in after no spring practice and is immediately starting, that to me is telling that this could be a bit of an issue.
I got to be real with you. The Aguilar thing for me is that a bad decision maker is a bad decision maker, and that's what he's been. And then you throw in Heupel's offense, which is a lot of option stuff in reference to option routes of what the receivers are going to run based off the coverage. This could get bad. I'm not surprised. But, Joe, what are we really expecting from Tennessee this year? Can I be real with you? I think that would be a bonus.
7-5, 8-4, I think is pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
reasonable.
This kid turned the ball over 19 times last year. He led the country in turnovers. In turnovers, and we're expecting, and he did that at App State. So, look, we'll see. All right, that is some camp quarterback intel, if you couldn't tell there, but. Nevertheless, here we go. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. If you're on Facebook, hit that like button, hit that share button, share to all those groups, and share to all your social media pages. Joe, congratulations are in order, my man. 17,000 subs on the tube. Glad that we've been able to climb that hurdle. Do us a favor. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. We greatly appreciate that. Every episode on YouTube is brought to you by our good friends, or any episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com, place those bets responsibly. If you do have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or go over FanDuel.com/RG. That's FanDuel.com/RG. Got to be honest with you, Joe. I don't know if you saw this, the Julian saying Heisman thing. I mean, people must have sprinkled some money on it because it's going down. That's all I'm saying. Go to FanDuel and place that bet today. Wherever you listen to podcasts to, rate, review, and subscribe. But because your boy was having internet issues last night, we were unable to get to this, but now it seems like we're good and ready to go. But, Joe, speaking of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, let's get to their Week 1 game as Catholics versus Convicts is back on the books. Week 1, Notre Dame versus Miami. When you see this game playing out, how do you see it shaking out?
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Miami coming into this game, even though after I made a snide comment about the stadium environment, they think that I hate them. But that everyone who follows this channel knows I really respect what Mario Cristobal has built with this team. Miami is bringing back one of the most stout offensive lines in the country. They're bringing back what is going to be bolstered a dominant run game. They also have potential to have another year with explosive receiving production, but I don't think that they're going to try and lean on that stuff as much because they have a 3-deep running back room in the O-line that they have built. I think their defense is going to be better, as I've echoed throughout the offseason. I believe in Heatherman, who is a tremendous defensive coordinator. And one thing that's been true is that a lot of these guys that they brought in their secondary have been really stepping up and showing signs of promise. And also their defensive line, David Blay, who they brought in from Louisiana Tech, is super underrated and could be real disruptive in this game.
Outright dog.
But everybody knows, and the line on this game is Notre Dame -2.5 on FanDuel. I lean Notre Dame. And the reason why I lean towards Notre Dame is knowing where their strengths are and how they're going to help them in a game like this. Their defense and their offensive line are an incredibly close-knit group. One of the things that I have read a lot this offseason is the emphasis on how these guys came up together. We're all in the same recruiting class. There are very few transfers coming in. And you talk to any of these kids, which I've had opportunities here and there, and I've talked to some of them when they were recruits. They all talk about the camaraderie that they built before they even committed to play at Notre Dame. I think that cohesiveness stepping into the first game of the season, when last year Notre Dame had one of the best secondaries despite having the most youth, and one of the best linebacker rooms despite having some of the most youth, and now they have this really twitchy, explosive defensive line room that can step up to the occasion. I think that in the offensive line room, Blake, even with a new quarterback stepping in who has not really played significant time, I have belief that Marcus Freeman's group is going to be able to win a close game in this situation.
Joe, this game comes down to one person if you're Notre Dame. You ready for it?
I can probably guess.
Jeremiah Love. I mean, listen, if you're Miami and you have that much confidence in your secondary and you think you've rebuilt it, you better man up on the outside and stack that box and tell if either it's Minchie or Carr. I don't really care who it is. But, Joe, I kind of think it's crazy we're previewing this game. We don't have a starting quarterback right now, technically, right? But let's just say it is Minchie or Carr, whoever. It doesn't matter. Joe, they're going to have to they're going to have to run the football effectively because they're going to have to take stuff off the kid's shoulders, regardless of who it is. And I expand that more to Jeremiah Love. Go back and watch Penn State. Go back and watch Georgia. Go back and watch Indiana. Go back and watch the end of that regular season and then getting into the playoff. Joe, Jeremiah Love got banged up. Now, he had some big plays, right? I think it was the one against Penn State where he ran a couple of guys over. Abdul Carter can't make the tackle at the goal line. He gets in, had some knee issues, had some flu issues, whatever it was. They battled. But, man, that running back room stood up massively. They had a lot of explosive plays from the run game from not just Leonard, but overall able to throw the ball out of the backfield. You're going to have to take the pressure off early because Miami is going to be very talented. They are very talented. You talked about Blake, et cetera. The thing for me, if I'm Miami, is I am making, without a shadow of a doubt, one of those young quarterbacks that's going to start, I'm making them beat me by throwing the ball. Without a doubt. I am taking Jeremiah Love away as much as I can. I'm taking the running game away as much as I can. Because until you can go out there and prove to me as a young quarterback that you can come in here and beat us by throwing the ball around, then fine, Joe, fine. Then we will adjust. There comes down to a situation where this run game is the most important thing for Notre Dame in week one, to get a win and to get your feet up under you. But there's the opposite side of this that really, really worries me, very much worries me if I'm Miami. Joe, who in the Rudy Poo hell are they going to have at receiver? Now, I understand C.J. Daniels, and you've asked me a couple times during the offseason about the show. I love C.J. Daniels. I don't think he's the explosive guy that maybe some fans are expecting. He is a big body possession receiver. I think CJ can get some things going, but against that Notre Dame secondary with Carson Beck, Joe, I'm just as worried on the opposite side of that. I got to be real with you. I think there's matchups inside matchups here, and I think if Notre Dame's able to establish and run and take some stuff off of Minchie or Carr, whoever it is, or this Notre Dame secondary, quote-unquote, can't hang on and Beck does throw the ball around, they run the ball effectively, Joe, that's going to be the two areas when we come in here after week one – or wait, they play on a Sunday. So that Monday or Sunday night that when we come in here and we talk about this, Joe, that we're wiping our hands of this and saying, hey, we knew this was a struggle coming into the game, and now it's starting to take hold. There is no bigger steps for me than this, though, for Miami. Stop getting away from the run game. Let's talk about the last two games of the season that you lost. You lost two of the last three games of the season. Joe, they stopped running the football. They were running the ball for 7 yards per carry, and they stopped running. They didn't bleed the clock. They kept getting incompletions and turnovers. I love Shannon Dawson. He's on that staff at Southeastern with all the dudes. I love him to death. You better run that rock effectively too. Because if you keep doing what you did to end the season, you're going to be staring up and saying, man, how did we get here again?
I think that that's like a really important talking point to have with this, because Miami has the roster and the depth to run the ball really effectively. They're building a unit that they can lean on their run game, but we haven't seen them utilize that approach. They threw the ball a ton last year. And I think that you're stepping into a situation where you just mentioned, like, you have to find success from your receivers. It sounds like freshman Malachi Toney has been doing some great things in training camp, but at the same time, we don't know who's stepping up. You're losing significant production from last year, especially Xavier Restrepo, who had an historic season last season. Somebody has to step up. And it is a real crappy situation that you have to figure out who your receiving targets are against the best corner tandem, one of the best corner tandems in college football, arguably maybe the best corner tandem in college football. Leonard Moore and Christian Gray have locked up a number of opponents that they have faced. I know that Christian Gray had a little bit of a rough stretch at times against Ohio State, but both those dudes are gifted. They're loaded at safety as well to cover. Okay. The USC game in Ohio State were not great for Christian Gray, but they have been incredibly dominant and locked down against receiver rooms that had uncertainty. The Penn State game is an example of that. When they have to go against premier guys, they have issues. USC has 2 first-round receivers in Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. But when you go up against Penn State and you lock them down the way that you do, and they can't move the ball, they can't get completions to their receivers, that's indicative of what they can produce. I don't think that happens for Miami. I think Miami's going to be able to throw the ball. But when you're stepping into a situation where Carson Beck has had so many issues with turning the ball over, and you're hoping that he makes better decisions and he doesn't make those same mistakes in a completely different offense. He's not playing hero ball at the time. This is a really tough matchup that he has to step into right away in week 1. I would just worry if I'm Miami, if you have one early turnover, what does that do to your offense? How do you respond? And the way that you respond will ultimately impact if you win the game. If they respond positively, I think that Miami wins the game if they do have a turnover before halftime.
Joe, let me get to the opposite side of this.
Okay.
As we're recording this, you're talking about Carson Beck. I feel like I know more about Carson Beck, clearly, and feel like he can get the job done. I know last year was a tough one for him. I mean, we don't know who the starting quarterback at Notre Dame is as we record this. I mean, yes. Let me say it like this. We have a pretty good idea, but we don't know, okay? Joe, we have no idea what we're getting from that quarterback position at Notre Dame either. And so as we are recording this, I just want to throw that out there that, hey, hold on. Riley Leonard did some massive things for you a year ago. It's not missed upon me the multiple runs he had against Penn State, the multiple runs he had against Georgia, the multiple runs that he had against Ohio State to keep you in that game. I'm not saying Carr or Mitchie can't do that. It's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, look, man, it's a first-time starter against a pretty damn good defense. If Miami did figure out their secondary, then you are in a situation where, Joe, they had one of the better front sevens in the country last year. They were top 20 in the country in rush defense. They were top 20 in the country in havoc rate. They were top 20 in the country in tackles for loss. I mean, this isn't just an easy front seven that you're going up against, right? The problem is they were 130th in the country in explosive plays last year. Their secondary was god-awful, and we kept talking about it all last year. They keep giving up explosive plays. They keep getting dominated. Okay, well, they feel like they got it fixed. You're a first-time starting quarterback, and what are you really realistically doing and looking at with a new defensive coordinator who you have no idea what he's going to throw at you? Joe, you better keep this game close early if Notre Dame wants to keep a chance. Because I think in the beginning of this is going to be a counter-punch situation, and you better control the ball and control the clock. That's why I think Jeremiah Love has got to be the biggest piece in all of this.
That's where, for me, as we try to in a lot of these previews, when there's such a close battle, the Florida State preview, I don't have any keys to victory for Florida State. But the way that Miami wins this game is the fact that they do have that edge in the quarterback room. There's uncertainty on what to expect from whoever starts for Notre Dame coming into this game because none of these guys have seen live bullets. To the fact that Carson Beck has made a lot of mistakes in his past and last year at Georgia, that also provides him with an understanding of the mistakes that he made that he can build off of and that he can be better at, the ways that he can improve. And he's had a whole offseason to reflect on that as he has changed settings and transferred to a completely different school. So I completely agree with that part. That is the edge that you have. You have a veteran quarterback who has been on championship caliber teams and has led his team to many important victories despite having issues. If this game ends up being close late, this is not a situation where Riley Leonard can bail you out. Riley Leonard, at the very least, last year against Texas A&M, for example, he's able to bail you out because he did a ton of that at Duke. He had reps underneath his belt. We don't have the same that can be said for Notre Dame. So if this game ends up being like a one-score game and it's like 5 minutes to go, I would absolutely live bet Miami to win. I'm not going to because I'm not going to bet against my team, but I would live bet Miami to win.
Timeout. Add on to your point here. Timeout.
Okay.
He also saw Mike Elko's defense every day at practice.
Yes. Right.
So
that was another advantage that they had.
It was a massive advantage. Let's call it what it is. You had a first-time head coach at A&M, and you are battling in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Riley makes a massive run in ball game. Okay. So just so we got that. Joe, I'm not picking a winner right now because until they formally announce a quarterback, I'm not picking anybody. Okay. I do lean that I don't know, man. I go back and forth on this one. I really do because I think some of the biggest strengths for Miami might be a quote unquote weakness. And I mean that very lightheartedly for Notre Dame. And I think Miami's quote unquote weaknesses are some Notre Dame strengths. When normally that happens, 9 times out of 10, the team that controlled the ball and took care of the football, like you mentioned, is going to win this. So, look, we'll see, man. We'll see. I know you're going to say no to this, but I am interested to see if Notre Dame has any hangover effect. Do you have any hangover effect from the end of last year? You had a lot of people singing your praises. All Notre Dame's here with Marcus Freeman. How did that offseason go for you will be a question.
I don't disagree with that final point, and I don't think that this will be a team that happens, but it is something that we've seen in the past of college football that get to a national title, and you're the team that loses it. The team that loses it typically has a lot less luck the next season. So they got to come out swinging. They can't let the situation be too big for them. That's a very important final piece with this.
I mean, Joe, outside of Georgia, I'm trying to think.
TCU, I mean, I know that there's like very
I'm trying to think of a team that went there, at least at minimum went there and then didn't have some form of drop-off.
Right. Because usually teams that win it, there's rewards that are reaped.
Yeah, I mean, let's call it what it is. Every national championship winner, every one of them led the NFL in draft picks.
Yeah. Well, but I think that the loser is like an even bigger talking point because a lot of times the loser luck was on their side and then they lose all those best players and then something catches up to them. But I don't think that's going to happen for Notre Dame.
Well, and listen, too, here's just another little thing. It probably means absolutely nothing. Carson Beck can go in there and beat Notre Dame and get his lick in and say, hey, Georgia fans, see, if I was there, you would have won. You get because of all the pettiness that
that's true. I would think that he would have that chip on his shoulder.
It does seem like he's got a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder than we've seen, just for whatever that's worth. All right. Oh, boy. All right, let's get to this one. Alabama and Florida State, week 1, Joe. I wonder if Tommy Castellanos is starting to get, some butterflies here. He's had some big things to say during the offseason. But Alabama, Florida State in week 1, when you look at this game, hold on one second. Sorry, just got told. Dick Buck says, are you going to bet $50 on Miami? Joe, $50 on Miami versus Notre Dame.
No, I don't bet on my own team. I refuse to do that because it will just make me more upset if it doesn't go my way.
There you go. All right, let's get to it here. Joe, Alabama versus Florida State, week 1. A lot of talking points coming out of this season. A lot of people either really high on Alabama or really kind of, oh, what's Ty Simpson going to be? Florida State coming off a 2-10 season, and Mike Norvell yelling at us at the podium at ACC Media Days. When you look at this game going into week 1, how do you see this one playing out?
The line on FanDuel is minus 13.5 for Alabama. Big spread, very big spread. Blake, my biggest thing, coming into this season for Alabama is I think that they have an opportunity to hit their stride early. Last year, what held them back is they had a very young core, and they lost a ton of guys to the transfer portal depth pieces. So you have this learning period, this acclimation period, as you're trying to get guys to buy in, that led to so many mistakes, turnovers. It led to dropped passes. It led to so many penalties. And you now have this group of guys that showed promise, but inconsistency, ready to step up. It goes in line with their receiver room, with their offensive line, with the very high potential defensive line group of Tim Keenan and James Smith leading that conversation with LT Overton. I think that one thing that with all of that is that they come into this year with a chance to really do damage. And I think that they're going to be incredibly motivated, knowing that what they left on the field last year and the shit talking that's coming into this from the Florida State side, that they're going to leave nothing out there. The flip side of this, Blake, I'm trying to do some reading up on Florida State to see what I'm missing and read some camp intel going into this game. Some of the reporters on some of these team sites also don't sound very confident in Florida State. It sounds like there's a lot of uncertainty. It sounds like there's a lot that is unclear. They think that there's a lot of talent at receiver, but this defense has so many issues that cannot be answered by week 1. So that to me is a pretty big red flag. I don't think I'm betting on Alabama minus 13.5 on FanDuel because that line is so big, but I feel pretty confident that Alabama wins this game.
All right. If there's somebody offensively that knows how to take it to Alabama, it's Gus Malzahn. Because it don't matter. He going to figure it out. He's going to – Joe, they go up 7-0. It's going to be the least surprising thing on the history of this planet that Gus Malzahn came out swinging. However, Joe, quite simply, they do not have the talent. I hate to say it like that, but it is the truth. I told you a couple weeks ago, and I told you again last week, there is a silent, now starting to be vocal confidence coming out of Tuscaloosa. They think they got a squad. Joe, the secondary for Alabama might be, I don't know if it's going to be, but it might be the best overall secondary in the country based off of the hype of, go ahead.
That makes me so happy because last year I was trying to tell you that they had some dudes in Xavier Brown and Damani Jackson, and now they've got Dijon Lee too. So I'd just like to say I was right. I was right about that.
Well, they hadn't played a game. So you don't
just a year early
yet.
No, I'm going to be.
Continue. Well, you very well may be. They think that they got some dudes. Now, I do think that they got out schemed a lot last year. I think their 3 losses came more schematically than anything else. Malzahn will pick you apart if you're going to keep running the same stuff. The bottom line is, though, Joe, I don't know if Florida State on either line of scrimmage can hold up. I don't. I think they're going to feast. I think this could be an earlier close game, but ultimate famine for Alabama. I know a lot of people have questions for Ty Simpson. I know a lot of people have questions about what Alabama will be. There are no bigger questions. As we've talked about Florida State here, we just did a deep dive on them not too long ago. Joe, if you believe that there's anything, like you know nothing about this team, nothing, but neither does Bama. And I wonder if early, if they can stay around, kind of like how Georgia Clemson went in the beginning of the year last year. If they can stay around, can they keep this thing a little bit interesting? I'm with you. I think Bama's going to roll, but the problem that I do have here for Bama is this. You do have Ty Simpson, and I know a lot of people are very high on him. I know that a lot of people think he'll be better in Grubb's offense, but you do lose Jam Miller, and you had struggles running the football a year ago. a lot of people coming out of Alabama are trying to convince themselves, I think, and they might be right, that this offensive line is what they think it can be. The problem with that is I think you're kind of kidding yourself if you don't have it as a question mark, because they still got pushed around and they still had the first guard that came off the board and they still got moved.
Okay.
I'm not sold right now that they can consistently during the season run the football effectively. Not yet. However, I don't think that applies for this game. I do think that they'll be able to go in here and take care of business pretty handily.
Yeah, we're going to see, and it's bad that you lose Jam Miller, but this is a game going up against a team that lacks talent outside of Darrell Jackson along their defensive line. It gives you an opportunity to feed different guys and to see who can emerge and who can make big plays. So that's an opportunity for you. I think the one thing that stands out the most with Ryan Grubb stepping in and Ty Simpson being named the starter and us knowing where this is going. When I was reading, man, I hate that I can't talk. It's pissing me off so much because I love talking. Ty Simpson apparently has been phenomenal when it's come to protecting the football during camp, as I've been reading up on how he's performed. He's only turned the ball over once during practices. And that has been the biggest sticking point with the media, is that they have been a lot better of preventing turnovers, and they've just overall been a cleaner team. It was so mistake-filled last year. And the fact that they're this locked in during camp, and it feels like see, this is the biggest part here. And you just kind of said this. Go look at the Alabama media. Go read the free available content that's not behind the paywalls, and go read what they're talking about. Go listen to their podcasts. There is now a growing confidence from that media base that they think this team is legit. We have to juxtapose that with a media following for Florida State that read an article today that basically was saying, I have no idea what to make of this defense. I have no idea what is going to come from this group. The fact that that is the different tones between these two different sides is all that you need to know to understand the upset will not happen. Again, I actually might even bet Florida State to cover that 13.5 points to backdoor cover it. And I think more people are going to keep betting on the Alabama side. I might go and do that on FanDuel. There is, though, a very strong chance that Alabama very handedly wins this game, and it's over by the third quarter.
All right, let me throw this your way. It's easy to say that you haven't, because our media has done this before, okay? Not calling any of them out, but here's the truth. Here's a factoid for you. As someone who's been around the block with them for a long-ass time, Joe, they've been able to do that because Nick's been there. They've normally, when they've said that they got a national caliber or playoff level team, they've normally been right. Normally, they don't miss because they understand what great football looks like. When you saw, for example, when you see Burrow in 19, when you see what that team in Alabama did in 20, what you saw what those Georgia defenses did in back-to-back years, Joe, when you're out there, you know what you're seeing. I do wonder if they're that, or there's just so much – I don't even know the vocabulary word. There's so much tension right now to get back to relevancy for Alabama because, Joe, they haven't really been there and been in that situation in a minute. It's been a while for them, right? Let's go to the last time that they were in the national title game. Was 2021.
Yep.
Okay, they got to a playoff in Saban's last season, and I get that. They won the SEC. But getting back on the mountaintop has escaped them for longer than it's normally done for them in 2 generations. Normally, Saban's been in there. Now, some of them he lost against Clemson, and that's fine. But for 2 decades, they knew that they were going to be a top 4 team, give or take. They just knew that. I still need to see Ty Simpson go out there and perform because I know that the hype is there, and I'm not saying the hype is real, wrong, or indifferent. But he's the only quarterback right now that I think everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's going to be great. But we give him the benefit of the doubt before we give others. He very well may. I got to throw one other bone out to you.
Okay.
I keep hearing about this damn passing game with Ryan Grubb, and I agree. Here's the problem with that. They ran the football better than almost anybody in 23 when he was there. Joe, they in the national title game, their lead running back ran the ball 28 times. 28. No. It's like Kiffin in a way. Stay with me. Kiffin will make you believe that it's all about throwing the ball around all the time, and that is the biggest lie. Everything that they set up is through the run. Go back and watch Washington versus Oregon in the regular season, the Big Ten, and go watch that national title game versus Michigan. When that run game got taken away, they got their doors blown off. If they are going to be successful, it's going to start from leading up front, and that is how it's been built with him.
To give a little bit of credit to Florida State, if they were to keep this thing within striking distance, and again, we don't think that this is going to happen.
No, I don't. Give me the points. Give me Bama the point.
The key to a close game is getting production out of Deuce Robinson and Javen Boggs, who apparently has been having a really good camp. I think Squirrel White, I believe I saw, went down with an injury. So as long as he's back for this game, if those three guys and Castellanos can produce some big plays, that's the path to, like, why is this game like so close in the fourth quarter? Like does Florida State have a shot of this? Those guys have to take over, and they need to go shot for shot. All right, outside of that, though, I don't think it's going to happen, though.
Hold on now. There is a guy out there in college football who's giving Bama more problems than anybody.
Well, you just said it was Malzahn.
It's not close.
Yeah.
It's not close. Why? Oh, it's the Iron Bowl. That's why it's so bullshit.
You bring up a good point, but well, that doesn't like directly apply because it's the DeBoer now. But you bring up a good point.
All right, Saban was no longer at Bama. It didn't stop Kirby's issues against Alabama.
Fair, that's fair.
I mean, like, sometimes you have a school's number, whether you get confidence about it or not. Here's the one thing I'm going to give Florida State. Let's just say hypothetically, Castellanos is a little bit accurate. Joe, what beats a team? As God is my witness, let that young man run wild. Hey, 7 yards.
Play good contain, man.
If you don't have good contain, hey, Bama fans, you know when the last time this happened? Oklahoma. Don't tell me it can't happen now. If you want to talk about offensive lines and shitty teams and all this, all right, you could not stop a guy running the football. The last time that we saw you twice when a team wanted to get the quarterback involved in the running game, you lost. You lost. So you get to a situation where I don't think that this is going to happen. Just so we're clear. I literally just said, give me Bama the points. So in case any Alabama fans mad at this,
it sounds like you're coming after him.
No, but
I'm just giving
you can't give them the benefit of the doubt when the last two times Warren Davis or whatever his name was, Warren Davis or whatever the Michigan quarterback's name was, and then you had Jackson Arnold. Joe, they did nothing special. Nothing. You're going to have to go out there and convince me that you can play right keys. Just because you feel like you're better in person. Joe, they were better personnel-wise than Oklahoma a year ago. I don't care that
that's not off. Yeah, because Oklahoma was playing all back on the road.
Joe, they ran quarterback power 24 times. 24. There's nothing special about quarterback power.
Well, and this game is at Florida State, right?
I'm pretty sure it is, yes.
So it is it is at Florida State. So they are on the road. So there's that advantage. Look, you bring up a good point, though. Castellanos starts gashing him on the ground and get a couple big plays from Robinson and from Squirrel White. That's the path. But you got to go shot for shot. You got to keep this thing high scoring. You got to get a turnover. That's what it's going to take to pull out the upset.
Even though I said that, though, but here's the thing. I literally saw Gus Malzahn get to a national title game with Nick Marshall. I mean, when he has a guy that can move, he will put them in situations to just really wreck your life, man.
Bro.
That's the hope. If I'm Florida State, that's the hope. Please, Gus, come out like your kick six Chris Davis. pull the magic out of your hat one last time. I mean, right?
I don't think it's going to happen, though.
I don't either. Give me Bama the points on FanDuel. All right. Joe, the last game that we're getting in here too. LSU travels to Clemson August the 30th. I'm going to be careful on how I say this. I'm giving this. I know your voice is out, but I'm going to give this one over to you. I've talked a lot about this game, but I want to get your perspective. When you look at LSU and Clemson week one, LSU going into Death Valley themselves for Clemson, even though Brian Kelly calls it Death Valley Jr. Your thoughts on how this game is going to play out?
Clemson is favored by 3.5 points on FanDuel for anyone looking to bet. LSU fans, you're welcome. Every time that I have picked against you guys and I have picked your opponent to win, you guys have managed to pull out victories. Every time that I've picked in favor of you, I have been comically wrong. It's actually there's been a lot of instances where I've done that. You've gotten blown out. The reason why I like Clemson in this situation, though, and regardless of my weird LSU jinx, I do think in a matchup between two teams, as a lot of these big games that we've talked about, they're very evenly matched. They both have different weaknesses and strengths that will show up in different areas. I think the home environment one is going to help Clemson in this situation, not significantly, but just a little bit. But the biggest part for me, Blake, is having a completely reset offensive line on LSU's side. Going up against this insanely deep defensive line unit for Clemson is where I think this game could shift. I don't think it ends up being lopsided at any point, but I think that it comes down to like a fourth quarter drive where a big sack comes through or a big stuff on 3rd and medium, 3rd and 3, something along those lines, because Peter Woods or DeMonte Capehart breaks through, or we see Will Helt get a sack, or we see TJ Parker get a sack. There is such a difference in the depth and the talent on this defensive line compared to a completely reset LSU offensive line. And then the other part, when you've got two talented quarterbacks, and Garrett Nussmeier, as you and I have talked about this off air, has been miles better than he was last year.
Massive leap. By the way, quickly on that,
Yes.
I had somebody today on our message board go back and pull every single practice report from last year and post it.
Wow.
Did you know at this time last year, Garrett had 13 interceptions in camp? I've been there every day. You know how many he's got?
He's got one. That is important for this conversation, that I think Garrett Nussmeier will play better. I think that it's kind of naive and too simple to assume that he's just going to step up and play like shit. But I think that when we have this slight separation point of Cade Klubnik stepping up and having some big moments last year, especially against Texas, an SEC team, and Garrett Nussmeier having a lot of inconsistencies, I am leaning slightly towards Cade Klubnik. But either team can win this football game. I think that those are my main focal points why I think Clemson is going to get the dub.
Joe, I got to be real with you. As I'm preparing for this game and doing my breakdowns for Thursday, I went back and watched the all-22 copy of Clemson versus South Carolina. And I got to be real with you. I'm blown away by some of the things that Cade Klubnik did in open space against arguably the best safety in the draft last year in Emenwari. Now, if you don't remember, didn't Emenwari run like a 4.4, 4.3? He had
4.3. He had the greatest testing performance out of any prospect ever at the combine.
Ever. He ran away from him. Go back and watch it. He ran away from him. It's a 50-yard draw play from the 50-yard line. He hits the sidelines. He's gone. He ran away from him. LSU had a problem last year with stopping quarterbacks that can run. I don't think that is a strength for Clemson, nor do I know if they are going to open it up with that. The thing that worries me the most is that late in games that Klubnik can take off, and LSU hasn't righted that wrong. Both teams last year were horrible defensively against the run. Last year, Clemson was 85th, and LSU was in the mid-70s. Both of you were horrendous at stopping the run at any given moment. Which D-line steps up? Now, right now, everybody is assuming that TJ Parker, Will Helt, and Peter Woods and Sammy Brown and Woodaz, and that front seven is going to be able to win against LSU's offensive line, and I'm not here to disagree with them. But, Joe, I do think LSU's vastly improved along their defensive line, which they weren't bad a season ago. They had some issues. They weren't bad. The question that I ask here will be this. Has LSU fixed some of their wrongs defensively, and can they tackle in space? Because I do think Blake Becker overperformed a year ago. I think he overperformed based off the talent he had at safety and at corner and in his front seven, which, by the way, Patrick Payton got beat out. Just hot news flash. He's going to come in on third downs and do something, but a top 40 prospect in Gabe Rutherford said, no. And, Joe, I got to be real with you. If you ask me today who the best player on LSU's team's been since the spring, it's the edge rusher Gabe Rutherford, and it's not close. The question remains for me is this. LSU's biggest weakness was Clemson's biggest weakness. LSU could not run the ball a year ago. They were 108th in the country in rushing offense. Joe, Clemson, when they lost, whether it was Isaac Brown or whether it was the end of the year with Jaden Blue or Wisner, they couldn't stop the run. Tom Allen coming here, how quickly can he fix this with all the talent that he possesses in this front seven? If LSU can find a way to run the football, something they could not do a year ago, Garrett Nussmeier improvement or not, I think they can win. But if Tom Allen comes in here and rights some of these wrongs in their front seven, Joe, LSU is going to be throwing the ball around a lot like they were last year, and it's not going to go their way.
I think one piece with this and building off of that, a big swinging point for who wins this game and one way that LSU can capture this victory is who wins the battle between LSU's improved secondary and Clemson's talented wide receiver room.
Joe, they're good. Clemson's got dogs, bro.
You've got TJ Moore, Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco. You've got two young dudes who have a lot of potential that were highly recruited, and Antonio Williams, who is going to potentially be a top 75, top 50 pick in the upcoming NFL draft. You have that unit going up against an improved secondary that, which I was talking to you, sounds like has gotten better a lot this offseason.
Yeah,
I've been a big Mansour DeLeone fan. I don't know if Tom had Mansour DeLeone has faced Clemson's secondary. I don't remember if they squared off with Clemson when he was at Virginia Tech, but this dude can lock guys down because he's got the length, he's got the hips, he's got all the stuff that you look for. If LSU can get some stops, can disrupt the catch point, I don't think they're going to, forcing a turnover is always impactful in a game, but can you in tightly contested situations, can you get those breakups is going to be a big shifting point. That to me is where LSU, I think, could tap in. I honestly, to be completely frank with you, I don't even really care that much about bringing up LSU's defensive line. And it's for the fact that I think it's going to be great. I think that a lot of people assuming that it's going to be an issue for them this year. Another situation where people are just being naive and they think it's going to suck. I've loved everything I've seen from Dominic McKinley and what you've told me about him. That whole group is going to be much improved. And they've recruited aggressively. It's just they've been young along their defensive line. Now is the chance for them to really, really step up. So I don't even put them into the mix of things. I'm more focused on the secondary because the secondary is where they've had so much damn inconsistency.
Yeah, well, especially at safety. Can Clemson really attack those safeties will be a question. Joe, does Clemson's run game and moving Adam Randall to running back, I know that they're high on Adam Randall, but does that worry you at all?
It does. And I'll be very frank with you, but here's the thing though. The guys that they are having at running back this upcoming season that they have available fit the prototype of what they're used to using. So you're talking about Randall here. He's 6'2". He's 235 pounds. So it's not like that they're trying to do something that they haven't done before. You've got a big physical dude who's going to try and run people over that they just did with Phil Maffa. And then David Uzam, I'm going to mispronounce his name. He's also 6', 215. So they got some big dudes. They're going to try and run people over. They got to be able to run the ball. That's going to be critical.
Going to need to. I mean, listen, whether it was Pitt last year, Louisville, Georgia, or Texas, whoever it was, are you going into overtime versus SMU? What did all those things have in common? I mean, the God's honest truth was those teams came in there and beat you by running the football. Yeah. And I do think LSU will try to establish that early. But Joe, I gotta give Nuss credit. He's drastically now. Listen, does he get back into a situation where the run game goes away from him and he starts getting back to old habits? That will be the question. But for Klubnik too, that will be a big question mark. I'm not picking this one yet.
Okay. I am taking Clemson -3.5 on FanDuel. That's my pick.
I don't. You expected me coming out here telling you that you're wrong or that I'm going to get mad?
No, I know that you're happy. I know that you are happy that I'm doing it. Because again, LSU fans, you guys all know that every time I picked in favor of you guys, you've gotten smoked. I am the kiss of death.
Well, I did say last year if LSU lost another opener, I wasn't going to pick them to beat Clemson.
Okay.
LSU's got to go in there and prove it, brother. Right, wrong, or indifferent, you got to go in there and prove it.
Both teams need to. Both teams, this is a make-or-break moment for your seasons. LSU a little bit more because they've got a tough schedule, but if you want to win a championship this year, you got to win this game.
Well, LSU faces 7. It's more than anybody besides Oklahoma. They face 7 ranked preseason opponents. I mean, their schedule's tough. Yeah. I do think the pressure is a little bit more on Brian Kelly because Clemson clearly can lose this and still win the ACC. We saw him do it a year ago when they lost to Georgia.
Right. I mean, there's a rebound point. There's a rebound point for them, but it's like the difference between winning the ACC and winning a national championship.
Yeah, very fair. I mean, listen, they are very talented. I think we look at them on paper saying at receiver they're going to get better. Joe, can Clemson's offensive line hold up? I mean, can they? I mean, I do think LSU is going to be better defensively up front. I don't know. I think you got some really evenly matched up stuff. We'll see. I mean, what do you expect from LSU with more speed at receiver? What do you expect from Tom Allen? The only thing I expect from Tom Allen at the current moment is he's going to send blitzes from the slot because he sent it against Notre Dame damn near every play. So I don't know. So we'll see. Right. All right. Anything else to add to this? Any super chats?
No super chats. We'll be doing picks on Wednesday for week 0.
Oh, good Lord. Give me Kansas.
You can actually to cover.
What's the spread?
You're not 3.5 right now. I put some money down on it this morning. It's been moving. It was at 2.5 originally. I think a lot of people are betting on Kansas State.
Any thoughts on game day not going? Don't you think it's a little bit of a
tragedy?
Not?
Are they really not? Oh, that's
apparently I saw somebody say that they weren't going.
That's
because Big Noon Kickoff was going or something. I don't know. I don't know.
The Big 12's rights are not owned by. Or are they owned by ESPN? No, they are.
I'm pretty sure ESPN's got them, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know then. It's a good question.
See you on Wednesday. Y'all have a good night. Peace.